Oh, I am back, baby. Oh, yeah. And we are going to talk about these California fires. Has anybody else noticed how strange it is that California fire season is typically late summer to fall? But as somebody who has personally lost her home in 2005, me and my young boys when I was a single mother, to a house fire, I know all too well. There isn't even a word that I can use to explain how that feels to lose everything you have to a fire. And so my heart, my absolute heart, goes out to every single person who's been affected by these fires and to all of the beautiful people I've seen, the elderly, people with their pets being evacuated. Sorry, it is a pain I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. It is a violation. It is a feeling you just can't describe. And again, with that, my heart goes out to every single person affected by this fire. Actually, these multiple fires. But with that, we're going to talk about these fires as well. Oh, but first things first, Tiki Talk. This is there's nothing entertaining about this. But it is just speculation. Actually, it's just a story time. This is a once upon a time situation. It's just a story I heard once upon a time. Nothing factual or actual is being stated here. It's just a story time. I don't know if you guys remember, this summer, Uncle Mike and I went to Idaho with our boat instead of going to the Pink concert in September. It was a very eventful day when we came back from the lake, and it seemed as though, well, no, somebody did mess with our trailer. In fact, only by the grace of God did Uncle Mike and I even survive that evening, as we had to drive home 80 miles an hour on an hour-long trip back to our Airbnb, pulling our massive pontoon boat. When we later discovered somebody had not only removed the boot from I'm not very good at this, the hubcap and the bearings from one of the tires, but they had also unplugged the electrical, flipped it around, and put it there so it would appear like it was plugged in, but no, we had no lights. And they also unscrewed all of the bolts from the spare tire underneath the front of the boat, so one big bump would have knocked it out, and most likely, rolling the dice, it would hit that tire that the bearings had been removed from. You see, I had been going into some pretty deep dives around that time. Long story short, and obviously, we made it home okay, but it was only minutes after we had left the lake that my husband realized something wasn't right with our lights. You see, whoever did this didn't realize that our lights are connected to the computer screen in our new truck. And whenever my husband clicks the blinker, it pops up on the screen, the outside around the road. And when it didn't happen, he stopped. Now, what does that have to do with fire? I'm getting to that. I had been getting one very loud word on my heart, mind, and in my head, not only all day during the whole fishing trip at the lake, but a couple of days leading up to that. So much so that by the time my husband had pulled over to check the lights and I was sitting in the truck with my neck brace on, in the dark, by myself, I couldn't wait any longer. I had to make a video. That one word I kept hearing over and over and over again, my friends, that word was fire. You might remember that video. I was so compelled. I was so convicted I had to make that video. I kept hearing that word so often, so much on my heart and in my mind. I even told Uncle Mike something is going to happen. There's something to do with fires, and I'm not sure what. Now, when we got back to the Airbnb an hour after we had left the lake and we had driven 80 miles an hour on a highway, I made videos about that explaining, well, we didn't realize it, but our tire, and I don't know how, well, yes, I do, it should have and had nearly caught fire. All by the grace of God, though, we were fine. The next morning, we were talking about all the things again, and I told him, I said, there it is again. I keep hearing fire. And that is when I heard, let's just call it a fairy tale, a story. And I would love to share that story with you now because Uncle Mike, the biggest skeptic in the world, but yet has been married to me and known me, well, we've been together for almost 20 years. He cannot explain why every time something just like this, well, eventually, it will come true. And then my even skeptical husband has to admit, how do you do that? And that happened the very next day. After we decided to order pizza to our Airbnb in an area we weren't familiar with, a very rural area in Idaho, we only had a couple of options. And one of those options was the Firehouse, a pizza place. And one of their specialties was the Firehouse appetizer. I said, there it is again, huh? Anyways, I want to tell you the story that happened after we had ordered our pizza. Now, it was a pretty interesting fairy tale. Again, just speculation, just a fairy tale I want to share. Once upon a time, this gentleman came into a gas station wounded. with a pew-pew to a wound to his stomach, telling everybody, please, somebody in the kingdom has hurt me because I was in another gas station up the road when strangers from not this kingdom had come in. These strangers from a far, far away land spoke another language from a whole different kingdom. Kingdom of Venezuela. Might have got lost in translation, but still. Little did they know the three strangers from Venezuela, that were speaking in this foreign tongue, not as the kingdom that they were visiting in, not legally. They were speaking in this foreign tongue, but this gentleman who ended up with the pew-pew wound spoke that native tongue as well. But before they knew this, they were having this conversation between one another, the three of them, about how they were welcomed into this new kingdom, a kingdom they were not supposed to be in. And if the king knew, well, the king knew, because the king allowed them to come into this kingdom illegally. So much so, he was so grateful that he gave them, along with all of the other folks from these different kingdoms, gifts when they entered this kingdom. They were given money, yes, on a magical card, thousands and thousands of dollars from that kingdom. And they were given another gift, a communications box. Hello? That you could walk with and talk with and pay a monthly fee to, I don't know, AT&T. These three men speaking in this native tongue of a different kingdom, Venezuela, were talking about how the king of this kingdom and all of his courtmen had given them a job. And one of their duties of this job was to scour the hills of part of the kingdom in California, Indiana. This place has got some weird names, huh? And one of their things that they did while they scoured these hills, or so it was planned, was to, let's just say, start something that was not there before. And let's just say California, Indiana was a kingdom where somebody was very famous, one of the princesses who lived there, that she was known for saying, that's hot. And ironically, the things that these people from the other kingdom, the king had them doing along with their friends on these hills, they were to start something on these hills that, well, this princess would refer to as, that's hot, randomly, in different places and spots on these barren mountain tops and hills. They were given specific locations to start these things. At which point, the three men from this other kingdom speaking in the foreign language realized the man from the kingdom here, well, he understood. That is when that man suffered that pew-pew wound and ran. And that's when he had the people in that gas station, in that kingdom, call the local authorities for help. Ooh, what a fairy tale. What a story to behold. And maybe you're not speaking Auntie's language or Venezuelan, but the things that these people from these other kingdoms, that the king of this kingdom had told them, along with the courtsmen, on that magical communication box to go along on the mountaintops in California in a future time to start something that was not started before, that a princess would consider, that's hot. That was going to be done at a later date. What a strange fairy tale for Auntie to find just only a day after she made that video about the discernment, the word, over and over and over, on my heart and in my mind and in my soul. Fire. That's strange. And although it is just a fairy tale, I hope that that man from this kingdom who had the pew-pew wound is okay. And sir, you are a hero. And I am so very grateful that you spoke those non-kingdom people that were in the kingdom's native tongue. I'm just saying. There is no such thing as coincidences. Isn't it strange how celebrities' houses are going up now too? No, but And let me just remind you that Santa Ana wind, the blowing, the fire everywhere, it blows from the desert to the sea. That's hot. And that's hot. But again, my absolute prayers are to everybody, all the innocent people involved in this. My heart is absolutely broken for the people of California tonight. The innocent people of this kingdom who deserve way better than this. I pray that everybody is safe and evacuated. Seeing the elderly and the animals and the people rushing out absolutely shatters my heart.